Guten EREV Rosh Hashanah to our friends and members of the Westbound Shul. It is almost 24 hours before Rosh Hashanah. Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of people in Shul, not as much as in the past, but Baruch Hashem, we're taking care of everything. And I want to put us all in the right frame of mind as we approach the year Tafshin Pei Beis. This past year has really been a roller coaster year. It's been a scary year. It's been a year of hope. It's been a year of failed hopes and opportunities. Baruch Hashem, Hashem has provided a vaccine for us this year. The vaccine is proving not to be, it's successful, but not as successful as we had wanted. We're greatly pained by the suffering that's happening in Eretz Yisrael. We've been pained many times this year. I don't have to repeat them all. Our lives have been really challenged. People have been challenged with parnasa. People have been challenged with shalom bias issues. All kinds of issues, being able to see family and friends, not really sure how to proceed. Some of us who are compromised are feeling disconnected from the shul. And the future does not look to be much better. The doctors are predicting a fourth wave, and there's a lot of debate on this issue, and I don't want to weigh in on this. All I'm trying to do with this talk is to help us find encouragement for the coming year. So let us look at what we're going to be doing on Rosh Hashanah. For those of you who will be in shul with us, those of you who will be in other places, or those of you who will be at home. When we blow the shofar, of course, we remember and, so to speak, remind Hashem of the blowing of the shofar and the merit of Yitzhak, who allowed himself to be slaughtered for Hashem's sake at the Akedah. And when Avram was able to take the ram, that's the shofar horn that reminds us of that event. And we have to wonder, what was Yitzhak thinking as he was walking towards Har HaMoriah to die sanctifying Hashem's name? So the Midrash Tanchuma relates that Yitzhak said the following: if Hashem has chosen me, then my soul is given over to him. And then he said, over my blood, Dami, I'm greatly pained. And the Midrash concludes, and nevertheless, Vayechu shneim yachtov, the two of them walked together with certainty, this one to slaughter and this one to be slaughtered. So the Maharam Shik asks, why was Yitzhak so exceedingly pained over the spilling of his own blood, when at the same time he was so willing to give up his life? The Midrash says that he walked together with his father Avram with equal determination to do Hashem's will, and declared, my soul is given over to him. So what does it mean that he was so greatly pained at the same time? So the Rav Shik gives an incredible answer. He says that Yitzhak was certainly more than willing to give up his life and acquire the world to come in one moment. But what pained him was that he would no longer have the opportunity for Dami to stop and be silent. You see, the word Dami can mean my blood, but it can also mean my stopping or my silence, as we find in Vayikra, Vayidom Aaron, and Aaron was silent. Or it says to him, Laman Yizamercha Chavod V'lo Yidom, in order that I sing out your glory and not be silent. Yitzhak was thinking as follows: my soul is giving over to Hashem, but I cannot bear the pain of knowing that I will no longer be able to stop and silence my own personal desires. I will no longer be able to fulfill the pasuk in Tehillim, Ki Olecha Haragnu Kol Hayom. It is for your sake that we are slain all day long. And what does that mean? For your sake, Hashem, to be killed all day long. I thought you only can be killed once. You know, I know there was this statement of the pirates. What did they say? The fearful people, they die 1,000 deaths, but the brave only die once. So, but either way, you only can be killed once. So what does it mean to be killed constantly? So it must mean the little death one experiences when he says no to his body's desires because of his belief in Hashem. A person is not the coward, but the Yorei Shamayim dies 1,000 deaths, while the Rasha only dies once. A person can die 1,000 deaths to sanctify God's name in that way. A person can give over his soul, his desires, and his honor to the master of the world. When the HR comes and says, give into your body, you say, no, I will die for this. Because remember, Mesiras Nefesh, Nefesh, the real word Nefesh means Ratzon, desire, to give up your desire. And we always have this expression, a lot of times you say, I'd rather die than have to do this. I'd rather die than have to admit I was wrong. So this is the ability to die forever. The Torah in Orach Chaim quotes Yerushalmi that on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish people eat, drink, and rejoice on Rosh Hashanah, even though it's a day of judgment, because we know that Hashem will do a miracle for us. Now, how can we be so sure Hashem will do a miracle for us? And the Gemara explains the key to meriting a miracle. The Gemara in Brachos. Rav Papa said to Abaye, what is different about the earlier generations for whom miracles were performed, but miracles are not performed for us? And Abaye answered, the earlier generations gave their lives for the sanctification of God's name, but we do not give our lives for the sanctification of God's name. And we got to understand why Rav Papa asked this question to Abaye in particular of all the rabbis of the Talmud. And we must also have to understand how Abaye could say that the people in his generation did not die to sanctify God's name. What are you talking about? Weren't multitudes of Jews willing to give their lives in order to keep and study Torah at the times of the Romans? So many people died al Kiddush Hashem. Abaye must have therefore had something else in mind. It's interesting. What does the word Abaye mean? You think it's his name. It was not his real name. According to Reb Srei Ragon and Rashi, his real name was Nachmani. His father died before Abaye was born, and his mother died shortly after naming him Nachmani. He was raised by his uncle, Rabbi Bar Nachmani. But because Rabbi Bar Nachmani did not want to call his adopted son by his own father's name, therefore, with his great love, he called his son Abaye, which is an acronym, Aleph, Beis, Yud, Yud, for the pasuk in Hosea, Asher b'cha Yerucham Yasom, in you for whom the orphan is granted mercy. So what do we see? Abaye grew up with great loneliness and poverty. Nevertheless, he was Moser Nefesh, sacrificed and overcame all those challenges to become Abaye, the great Amira Abaye, thus fulfilling, we are killed for your sake all day. And the fact of the matter is, it is a miracle whenever a person engages in self-sacrifice because he goes against his own nature. Abaye, when he answered Rav Papa, he did not mean that people do not give up their lives for God. Every Jew has the potential, and many people until today give up their lives for Hashem's sake. But Abaye knew that Jews will give up their lives for God. He was saying that in his times, people did not live for God by sacrificing their own desires for his will. The Gemara means to say that when a Jew goes against his nature, he merits that Hashem will go against his nature by performing a miracle for him. And therefore, Jews, while they were alive, were not Moser Nefesh to have those 1,000 little deaths in their lives. That's what was lacking in his generation, not with Abaye, but with his peers. When Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz was a young fellow, a tightrope walker came to his town to perform. Now, the town did not usually experience such excitement, so this was a big event. It was particularly so because there was no net below the tightrope. And after the performance, everyone crowded around the tightrope walker to ask him all about it. And one man asked, what was the scariest part? Was it when you first got onto the rope? Was it as you walked down the rope as it got lower? Or was it when the rope began going higher? What do you think it was? The performer answered him, the most frightening part was turning around. Rabbi Yerucham concluded that indeed the hardest thing in the tightrope of life is turning around. After one has become accustomed to doing things in a certain way for a long time, it's very difficult to change. Going against one's nature and turning around is a miracle. And by turning around, one merits miracles from Hashem. And my friends, such sacrifice does not have to be so dramatic. Let me give you just a couple examples. If one is accustomed to arriving for Shachris 5 minutes late every day or later, he can turn around and come 5 minutes early every day. If one is accustomed to always outdoing what other people say and getting in the last word, he can turn around and not say the next word. If one is accustomed to bringing a cell phone into shul, you could turn around at the door and leave it in our phone box in the hall. If one is accustomed to not saying Kriya Shema at night, when you get into bed, you could turn around, get out of bed, and say it for 5 minutes. You see, when a person reverses his old habits, he can give his life over to Hashem time and time again. This is what Yitzhak feared, that when you do die, Al Kiddush Hashem, you can't die anymore. He knows when Jews can continually die for Hashem and remain alive and give your life over time and time again, Hashem will do miracles for us and deliver healing and rectifications for us and our children. So this full Corona year of Tafshin Pei Aleph has been one that has required us to give our lives over to Hashem again and again. We have come to the shul, many of us, under, I don't know what to call it, difficult circumstances. It's been a whole year. And some of you have been with us for the entire year. Since a little bit before HaShanah, we never stopped coming to the shul. And we never stopped giving the quality service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not running through the service and getting out as fast as possible for health concerns, but to say we're talking to Hashem, we're being as safe as is necessary, and to pour our hearts out before Hashem, to have proper shalashudas in the dark, to have proper kiddush, to learn Torah together while making blessings to Hashem, to show great respect in a shul. We have killed ourselves all year long. You remember all the sign-up geniuses we have to do for more than half a year. All the COVID careful things we had to do, but we did it. And we have such an amazing kehillah where everyone has learned to accommodate for others. Those who are more carefree and those who are more cautious. To be able to live together as a unit is nothing less than miraculous. And I understand, it's very hard, for shuls have to make certain policies. And sometimes the easy way is to be extreme in one way or the other. Either you're following every single thing the government says, or you follow nothing. And most shuls have adopted that policy. But Baruch Hashem, we have such a kehillah that I was able to negotiate and navigate that we could be somewhere down the middle, the way the Rambam wants. Careful, cautious, but being able to daven properly for a whole year and making our shul open and welcome for everybody and taking the precautions where necessary and being dovuk to Hashem on the other hand. That involved a lot of mesiras nefesh, not just from me, not just from the Rebbitzin, but from all of you. The mesiras nefesh of being on Zoom live and recorded is not easy. Hashem has required great talents that were heretofore unknown for many of us. To be able to focus on giving a shiur, to be able to take on the technology at the same time, to be able to transmit this all, and to be welcoming to everyone, and for everyone to be welcoming to everybody else. We have been moser nefesh a lot, and we can rightfully ask Hashem for miracles. Yes, mitzad teva, under natural circumstances, things do not look good in this world. The way the United States is slowly turning communist, the way the whole axis of evil is spilling over into the world from a superficial way of looking at the political events that are happening, all the billions of dollars that are being spent on Corona and who is going to eventually pay for this. We have no idea what is going to happen. It's a year where we just don't know how to predict anything. It's a year where the countries who did such foolish things, who were not able to protect their people, and they get the corona later, and then they can't give it at the right time, and they decide to make it 3 or 4 months later because of their incompetence. But yet it seems that Hashem is blessing them, and that things are even not as bad in those places, the other places who got the vaccines earlier. It's a crazy world. We have no way of knowing which way to go. And the prognostications are not for things to be better. But those things do not frighten us, because we understand that Hashem wants us to fulfill that pasuk. That what? Ki alecha haragnu kol hayom. It's for your sake that we're slain all day long. I'll change the pasuk. Ki alecha haragnu kol shnas tov shin pei aleph. Hashem, you've made it very hard for us this year. It was not an easy year. It was not an easy year. Missing my son's bar mitzvah, my grandson's bar mitzvah. When he in shul, when I was instructed by Rabbanim, no, I can't, it's not safe enough to go. It was not an easy year. We had to do things so difficult. It was not an easy Pesach Seder for many of us. So many things were not easy. It didn't have, so to speak, that same geschmack that when everybody's together and everything you want to do, it takes 10 times harder to get it half as done as well. So Baruch Hashem, we've killed ourselves for you. And now we come to another year, a year of many questions. And we say, Hashem, we'll gladly kill ourselves another year for you. We'll continue to be moser nefesh. We'll continue to balance everyone's needs. Baruch Hashem, we were able, at the end, it was very difficult to find 500 rapid tests. And thanks to people who want to remain anonymous, we were able to get 3 days beforehand all the tests we needed and more of them. And people coming in and we're giving tests, and Baruch Hashem, so far, nobody's tested positive. And Baruch Hashem, we'll have people coming into shul, some a bit nervous, but we're all saying, Hashem, we're going to daven the full davening the way it's meant to be done. Olecha haragnu kol hashana v'kama shanim shetazet tzarich. And that gives us the confidence. And even those who can't make it into shul, we so much appreciate the financial support. We don't minimize it. And we know how painful it is for some of you. That when the doctors tell you that you're compromised and you can't come to shul and you want to be in shul, and you're moser nefesh not to be in shul. It's not easy. I don't know if I could do this if I was told I cannot go to shul. But we're working together as a team from the inside and from the outside. And no one's forgetting anybody. And that's why we have a drush before Yom Tov, so everybody can hear the drush. There'll be a shorter one, more modest one in the shul. Let me close with an EREV Rosh Hashanah story. It was EREV Rosh Hashanah one year, and the Minchas Elazar, the Munkatcher Rebbe, had a very young grandson. And every day in the month of Elul, the Munkatcher Rebbe would blow the shofar for his grandson. And the grandson was so happy to hear the shofar blown. And now it's EREV Rosh Hashanah. And the grandson said, Zaidi, please blow the shofar. And Zaidi said, I'm really sorry. We're not allowed to blow the shofar on EREV Rosh Hashanah. And the Rebbe tried to explain why we don't do it. But the boy was too young to understand. And he said, Zaidi, please blow the shofar. And no matter how many times the Munkatcher Rebbe tried to explain to him that he wasn't allowed to blow the shofar, his grandson wouldn't listen, and the child began to cry. Finally giving in, the Rebbe privately blew the shofar for his grandson. The next day, Rosh Hashanah morning, the Rebbe got in front of the shul right before the blowing the shofar and said, Rabbi Shalom, Master of the universe, you can testify that I have always done everything I could to keep every single halacha and custom. But yesterday, because I could not bear to listen to my grandson cry, I blew the shofar in violation of the minhag. I just couldn't take his tears. So Hashem, how could you bear to listen to the cries of millions of your children for thousands of years? And they're not asking to hear 100 blasts of the shofar. They're not asking to hear 30 blasts of the shofar, or even 10 blasts of the shofar. They're only begging for one blast of the shofar. Yitaka b'shofar gadol, sound the great blast of the shofar of our freedom, announcing the arrival of Mashiach. Hashem, we can't say it any better than the Munkatcher Rebbe. So Chevra, let's all say, Rabbi Shalom, Master of the world. Our lives are given over to you. We have given over our lives. We have killed ourselves all year for you. Hashem, help us turn around. Help us turn around this tightrope of life and recognize that our bodies and our souls belong to you. And may you sound the great shofar of our redemption with the coming of Mashiach this year. B'mehera v'yameinu, amen. Thank you all for listening. Have a beautiful Shana Tova Umetuka, Aksiva v'chasima Tova to one and all. Good Yom Tov.